Hey, I'm Yogi Don, your octogenarian yogi. When I began yoga in 1996, I was 57 years old and stiff as a board. I could hardly reach below my knees. In these videos, I'll share what I've learned over the years about yoga's ethics, its philosophy, its poses, its breath work, and meditation. I hope you'll subscribe and share these videos. May we be protected together, may we be nourished together, may we create strength together, may our work together bring fulfillment, and may there be no disharmonies among us. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. It was a beautiful spring day, a Sunday afternoon about 45 years ago. My life was pretty stressful then, and so I decided to go out in the country for a bike ride. When I returned, I found my duplex apartment had been broken into and ransacked. Several items were stolen. It was a very disturbing experience, so much so that I slept at a friend's house that night. Sometime after that incident, I moved to a flat across town. A few months later, when I returned from an out-of-town trip, I didn't notice the things piled in my driveway. I didn't see that all the windows had been plywooded over and that signs were on each one saying Macaluso fire enclosures. Over the weekend, the house, along with 12 others across the city, had been hit by lightning and set afire. Looking back over this period in my life, I realize now just how stressful things were for me. In the last video, we learned that the Yoga Sutra, yoga's ancient text, says that the purpose of yoga is to restrain our random thoughts. And we do have plenty of random thoughts. We relive past events. We constantly ask, why did this happen to me? Some people call this our monkey mind, but I think maybe a better metaphor would be the bull in the china shop. That may describe the effect that our crazy minds have, not only on our mental equilibrium, but our physical health as well. There's ample research that shows that reliving past negative events in our heads is a major source of stress. Our bodies don't know the difference between the actual event and the mentally relived version of the event. To our brains and our hormonal system, the real and the virtual event are the same thing. And so our hormonal system floods our brains and our bodies with the same stress hormones and disrupts our body's natural restorative process. I didn't know much about stress until fairly recently. A key thing that I've come to understand is that it is very difficult for us to recognize when we're stressed. Sometimes we don't realize it until it's gone, until we feel the weight lifted from us. We gradually become so used to our stressed selves that we're almost blind to it. If we're hit with one stressful event after another, the stress hormones released by each event never have a chance to be flushed from our bodies. They stay in our bodies and continue to build up, so that the damage caused by the stress never gets a chance to be reversed. We gradually become accustomed to how we're feeling, and a new stress set point is set. Then, each time after a new or an imagined stressful event happens, and before the damage can be reversed, the stress set point gets inched up just a bit more. Constant stress doesn't give the body's repair mechanisms time to work to eliminate the free radicals that are causing damage in our bodies. Over time, constant stress becomes a silent killer. At some level, we may know that something is amiss, and we may find temporary relief in various distraction therapies like shopping, mindlessly watching TV, surfing the internet, gaming, maybe alcohol or drugs. While these may offer temporary relief, they're not a long-term solution. To help us move toward a long-term solution and to see how yoga and its various practices can help, it may be useful to learn something about how to recognize stress. Let's look at 3 people to see what stress might be like in their lives. First, there's Chill Jill, who feels safe, comfortable, and relaxed in her relationships. Things are going smoothly. She has a secure job and adequate income. Her bills are paid on time, and she pays off her credit card each month, avoiding those interest fees. At work, the environment is collaborative and rewarding. Her kids are all in good places, and she has a comfortable and loving relationship with her spouse or partner. Then there's Tense Ted. Tense Ted feels nervous and on edge most of the time. He may have a short fuse. He doesn't even realize that he's revved up, but he's one of those people that when he sits down, his knee pops up and down, bouncing, 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 and he can't stop. He breathes fast and shallow and worries about a lot of things. He feels under a lot of pressure at work and often takes it out at home. And he uses avoidance therapy to relieve his stress, like drinking, TV, internet gaming, shopping. Or he may just simply stick his head in the sand and try and avoid things. He may feel distance from his partner or spouse, letting little things build up until he finally blows up. He's defensive because he doesn't feel emotionally safe. Actually, if he were honest with himself, he would have to admit that he doesn't really feel close to people. Finally, there's stressed out Susie. In many ways, she's like Ted, but then some disaster happens. A hurricane, a wildfire that destroys her community. She loses her job or business, or a family member is hospitalized with COVID, or there's a bully at work or a harasser at work, and she begins to dread going into work. She's constantly on edge and keeps a physical as well as an emotional distance from her loved ones. Many of us fall somewhere between Chill Jill and Tense Ted, but more likely we're closer to Tense Ted. To better understand stress, it may be helpful to look at what neuroscience can tell us about it. To do that, let's consider two branches of the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is under our conscious control. It moves muscles, things like that. It's also in charge of the fight or flight response to dangers or threats, real or imagined. The parasympathetic nervous system is under unconscious control. It makes the heart beat, repairs cellular damage while we sleep, and things like that. It's in charge of the rest and repairs after the threat of danger has passed. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in our bodies, and it's part of the parasympathetic nervous system. It collects information from all of the body's organs and tissues, sending messages to the brain so that the brain knows what's going on throughout the body. Something like 80% of the traffic along the vagus nerve is to the brain, and only 20% goes back down to the organs. When we do something, whether it's exercising or dealing with a threat, the sympathetic nervous system goes into action. It speeds up the heart, increases respiration, increases muscular tension, shuts down unnecessarily bodily functions like reproduction and digestion, and it uses up a lot of energy to help us run or fight. When the threat is passed, what's supposed to happen is that the parasympathetic nervous system should come online, should go into action. And its action is to slow the heart, to decrease the respiration, to decrease muscular tension, to repair muscle, tissue, and cellular damage caused during the sympathetic nervous system activation during the fight or flight. It should also restart digestion and reproduction functions. When one stressful event piles on another before the parasympathetic nervous system can do its job, or when we continue to relive a major stressful event in our heads, we stay revved up and the parasympathetic nervous system doesn't have a chance to do its repair job. It is a fact that the brain can't tell the difference between an actual stressful event and our mental reenactment of the event. The stress hormones continue to circulate in the body, and we begin to live in a chronic state of stress. When the parasympathetic nervous system can't do its repairs to the body, certain diseases can be made worse, and we become more vulnerable to other certain stress-related illnesses, more vulnerable to heart disease, asthma, obesity, diabetes, headaches, depression and anxiety, gastrointestinal problems, Alzheimer's. You take your choice. And on top of it all, we also begin to age prematurely. Next, we're going to do some simple breath exercises, but first I want to advise you that following your doctor's advice is absolutely important in managing any disease, including stress-related diseases. So before you begin to incorporate any of the things outlined here into a regular practice, please check with your doctor and be sure that you and your physician are in agreement about proceeding. Okay, something as simple as proper breathing and breath control can give us a gateway into coping with stress. A key fact is that conscious breath control indirectly accesses certain functions controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system, that part of our nervous system that's supposed to bring us back into balance after a stressful event. By consciously slowing or speeding up our breath, we can slow or speed our heart rate. By controlling the breath, we can control the tension and relaxation in our muscles. Not long ago, I was talking with a man who had been a Navy pilot. He's retired now, but he used to fly off of aircraft carriers. We were talking about using the breath to settle and calm us, and he told me that when he was sitting in the cockpit of his jet waiting to be shot off the bow of the aircraft carrier, he would use some very simple breath techniques to help him relax because it was a very stressful time just before getting shot off the carrier. A key to helping to understand this is something called heart rate variability. When we inhale, our heart rate naturally speeds up slightly, and when we exhale, our heart rate naturally slows down a bit. The difference between our heart rate on inhale and on exhale is called heart rate variability. The greater the difference between our heart rate on inhale and the heart rate on exhale, the more relaxed we are. This is called high heart rate variability. The nearer the heart rate on inhale is to the heart rate on exhale, the more revved up we are, and this is called low heart rate variability. And low heart rate variability is a marker for stress. Different breath patterns can produce different mental and emotional states. We'll get into that in part 2. But first, let's do some quick and easy breath calming practices. Some key facts that we'll be working with are that an equal inhale and exhale at a rate of about 5 to 6 breaths per minute helps to balance the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, and that lengthening the exhale helps to further relax us. Now let's do some quick calming practices. We'll begin sitting upright, nice long spine, let your eyes come closed if that's comfortable. Place your hands in your lap, palms up, place the tongue on the roof of the mouth, teeth slightly apart. Allow a little smile to form on your lips, and ask yourself without judgment, how am I breathing? How am I feeling? Does my breath feel comfortable? Or does my breath feel restricted? No judgments, just pay attention. Now we'll use these same setup practices, the same bodily alignment for the next exercises. The next one is called heart-centered practice. So sitting as before, observing yourself without judgment, and with your eyes still closed, place the left palm at your heart, and the right palm on top of it. Exhale all the air out slowly and gently, and then inhale, expanding in all directions around the heart. Exhale slowly, letting all the air out. And repeat 3 or 4 more times, observing without judgment. Now, the next practice is called lower abdominal practice. Sitting as before, observe yourself without judgment, with your eyes still closed. Left palm at the belly, the lower part of the belly, and the right palm on top. Exhale all the air out slowly and gently. Then inhale, feeling the belly expand in all directions. And slowly exhale all the air out. And repeat a few more times, lengthening and deepening each breath without judgment. And continuing to sit as you are, well, the next exercise is called the humming breath practice. Taking a nice full inhale, and as you exhale, hum. And pay attention to the evenness of the tone, the length of the tone, the slow, steady exhaling of the hum. And repeat. Now, these brief practices can begin to lead us toward a less stressful life. So I would recommend that you do them daily, maybe several times during the day. They're easy to do. You don't need to spend a lot of time going off into some little hidey hole to do them. At the start of the video, I mentioned that my house had been broken into and trashed, and that some things had been stolen. If I had read about this in the paper, I would have shrugged it off. But it's altogether different when the experience is yours personally. The same is true about the house fire. The fire destroyed a lot of personal things, photos, my kids' early drawings, things like that. And there was a lot of smoke damage too. It's not such a big deal though when you read about it, but it is when it happens to you. And when I think about people who have been racked by hurricanes along the Gulf Coast, devastated by tornadoes in the Midwest, or had their towns burned down in the West, these are people who are truly dealing with trauma. Their PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, will last for a very long time. Now, I got off really easy, but it took me 15 years before I could return home without feeling a knot of anxiety begin to form in my belly. So perhaps, just maybe, if I had understood more about stress, I might have realized what was going on. I might have realized that it was something that should be dealt with rather than lived with. I didn't recognize what was going on, but maybe if I had, I might have shooed that bull out of my mental china shop. I might have shortened my recovery time. In our next video, we'll look at some very effective ways to deal with acute as well as chronic anxiety and stress. Until then, please use and practice the quick calming breaths that we just did. But before you go, please check the description below because down there I've listed a couple of movies that deal with stress. They're very interesting movies to deal with because it's a chance to look at stress sort of from the outside in. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you the next time. May our bodies be strong, relaxed, and healthy. May our minds be calm, clear, and serene. May our hearts be filled with loving kindness, and may we live our lives in harmony with our true inner selves. May we be friendly toward the joyful, compassionate toward the suffering. May we celebrate the good in others and remain impartial to their faults and imperfections. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll subscribe and share these videos.